I always say the first word.
Yeah, you do, don't you?
Yeah, because I look at you and you don't say anything.
Let's take another moment of silence and then I'll break the silence.
Okay.
So did you hear about Britney's lawyer? I was actually going to see, I thought maybe a spit take was going to come.
Oh.
So, Britney Spears, #free Britney. There's a development.
Forever and always.
Her court-appointed attorney has chosen to step down.
Samuel Ingram III is out. He was appointed at this, I don't know, so long ago. And he had been receiving $500,000 to do absolutely nothing.
A year. $500,000 every year.
A year. Yeah. His pay rate was, and I bullshit you not, it was like $10,000 an hour or something like that.
What a cushy job.
Yeah.
To just be there to do nothing.
Just be like, yep, she's is still emotionally unstable. Dad, help.
So now I guess her mom is having to fight for her to choose her own attorney, which is again, this is a grown woman. Just let her hire her own attorney.
I think she's going to choose. I think her mom is just advocating that she gets a one to choose, which is weird because I don't know. I think constitutionally you still have the ability to choose your lawyer. I think you have the right to a court-appointed lawyer, but I don't think you have to take the court-appointed lawyer. It's really strange.
Well, I think that's under the terms of her conservatorship, is that she's not mentally fit to hire her own lawyer.
Makes no sense.
Which is kind of crazy. What are they worried about? A person who's mentally unfit is going to hire a clown to show up in the courtroom and I don't know, hire their meth dealer to show up.
And it does make very little sense. But usually, a conservator is generally someone who is fatally ill. So this is not the normal thing. We don't usually see a conservatorship with someone who is 39.
Yeah, well, is her dad still publicly saying that she's unwell?
He is publicly saying that only he can see after her millions of dollars, and he is the most fit to handle it. Yeah, I guess so.
But he's not openly saying that. He's not saying my daughter is crazy.
He might as well be, because what cause? Why would he even do it? Other than the fact that he's also being paid. She's paying for the whole thing. She's paying for something.
That $500,000 isn't coming out of his wallet.
It's coming out of her wallet. Yeah, she's paying for it.
Well, yeah, but her wallet is now his wallet, right? Well, it's a paradox.
Well, her wallet is not her own. That's the thing. That's what makes this so fucked up, is that she has no right to her finances. She gets a $2,000 a week allowance. It's so frustrating to me that in our society we have a woman who is terribly mistreated in the 2000s and is still being terribly mistreated in the public eye. It is so frustrating.
An icon too, a person that many people look up to as one of our greatest cultural figures of the last few decades.
Yeah.
And yet we're still treating her like shit as a society.
Pretty much.
When we were just researching about this and I saw Fox News had a headline about a topless photo. The headline said, Britney Spears posts topless photo amid conservatorship battle. And it's what are you doing?
It's so
weird. The whole thing went right over their head.
Also, Fox News has never heard of Instagram or thirst trapping. Everyone's doing that nowadays. But that's nothing.
This isn't even a political bipartisan. This isn't a partisan issue at all. No. And yet somehow Fox News still has the worst take.
Yep, that's what they do.
That's their brand. That's just having the wrong take.
How can I not acknowledge what's actually wrong here?
There are plenty of topless models who make an entire living being topless, who have full control over all of their money and their life and their medical care. The IUD thing is the most. It's good. It's good that all this is coming to light, and she was able to give a public plea, and her what was denied a few weeks ago was actually in relation to a court case that happened last November. So it's going back to court in July, and it's going to actually, all this stuff that's happened now is admissible. So I do think it will come to an end, and we will party till the world ends. Yeah, she can make more music too, Because
I
really
think she's gonna retire. Actually, I think
Yeah,
that's what.
probably.
So I think let actually leave Britney alone. Let's actually leave her alone.
Let's genuinely just
Leave her alone!
Chris Crocker knew what was up this whole time.
Oh man, that meme has aged so well.
So well.
Never seen that like wine. Fine
Wine. Not all memes age like that.
I'm sorry, Chris Crocker. I'm sorry, Britney, and I'm sorry, Chris Crocker, for all the jokes I made.
Is this our first public our YouTube apology video?
I'm sorry you feel that way, Britney.
Sorry you feel that I did something that I didn't do, but your feelings mean nothing to me.
And Chris Crocker's been begging me for that apology for years.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
DMing me on
So
Twitter.
many DMs. It's getting kind of weird at this point, actually.
You bastards!
Welcome to the Avant Inn. I am one of your hosts, Topher Wagner.
And I'm another host, Jerome Allen.
And we are doom-scrolling the news so that you don't have to.
Well, if you've been listening to the cast, we gave our thoughts, opinions, concerns, obituaries, and Santa wish list about the New York mayoral race. It has come to an end in terms of the primaries, and the winner is RoboCop. Supercop. The biggest cop in the land.
Yes, Eric Adams is our mayor. Or not yet, but he is the mayor-elect.
He's a mayor. Well, there's still the general election, but
Oh, right, he's not.
in no way, shape, or form will a Republican win this city at this current
Okay, yes.
moment.
How funny is it that the two candidates we have, Eric Adams is a former police officer with the NYPD, and this other guy who, I don't even need to get his name right, Silwas, he wears a red beret, and he founded a, like, subway vigilante guardian angel group.
Sorry, I for some reason heard Charlie's Angels, and I know you just said Guardian Angel, but yes.
Yeah, it was like him and two other sexy dudes in berets storming the subway looking for action. So yeah, like he is also known for fighting crime without firearms, which I guess is a plus. I also read that there was a lot of controversy about like the Guardian Angels showing up at like a Stonewall protest, like a gay rights protest, and just like beating people as like some sort of like community watch bullshit. Either way,
Whoa.
I would prefer Eric Adams to that, and so does all of New York, and that's why Eric Adams
yes.
will be the mayor, because there's just not enough Republicans
Well,
for him to stand a chance.
And I mean, the New York mayoral race is a snapshot of what is to come for the future of politics, at least within the next few years in this country. And what seemed like would be a progressive or liberal moment has actually turned into moderate Democrats having a message that carries people to the polls. I mean, this not just did Eric Adams win, but there were some special elections that happened in North Dakota, that happened in New Mexico, in which moderate Democrats won. Now, of course, the easy thing is to say, "Oh, why?" But I feel like we do have to actually like discuss the fact that people in this city at least care about crime and they care about economics. And this specific person, Eric Adams, ran about not wanting to defund the police,
Right.
and that message carried him to over the 50% line.
Right, so his message is essentially that New Yorkers want changes to policing. They support Black Lives Matter as a movement, but they don't want to defund the police. And I guess the argument being made is that people in the poorest communities don't want to defund the police because they also have to deal with the most crime.
Right.
And they maybe haven't really come to understand the benefits of defunding the police.
Right.
But my take on the whole thing, because I do think he is well-intentioned. You know, like there's the whole story of him becoming a police officer because he was brutalized by police. And I know in the 90s, he formed this coalition. It was called 100 Black Law Enforcement Who Care, which you need to work on your your slogans and taglines.
Yeah.
Like, that's not catchy.
Shorter title.
But like, he has been fighting and advocating for less racial profiling and less police brutality. So I mean, this is obviously just me trying to like feel better about the whole thing. I want to believe that he could maybe make some reforms. But my take is that if at the end of his run we don't see improvements in the way that communities interact with policing, then all right, well, we tried your thing. We tried your reform. Maybe now we'll have more of an opening to discuss defunding the police, and that's one step closer to abolition or whatever else we come up with.
I think the strange word that's coming up in a lot of the news reporting on his win is the word pragmatic. The progressives versus the pragmatists, which is, I guess to some extent, we like to sort of like position us. We don't live in like a 100-floor building where there's floodlights outside in order to reduce crime. Like we, as people in like a specific class privilege, don't have that. We're not facing crime at a high rate in our neighborhood. But it is important to know for people listening that crime in New York City actually dropped a large percentage in the last year. So even though there's this mark of the crime infested New York City, actually New York is an extremely safe city and has been for a long time. But the NYPD has its own media machine, or at least its own grapple on the media machine to purport the fact that there is a lot going on, which, not to trivialize like the things and the hardships that do happen in some lower income neighborhoods, but I don't think it's as simple. I think to call it pragmatic of we need cops in order to solve crime and poverty is just a lazy way to circumvent the fact that we need to solve poverty in the city, or at least figure out ways to lower the or decrease the wealth gap here.
Yeah. And well, what's interesting about the New York City mayoral race is that it applies to the strategy of the entire Democratic Party. I think even in his acceptance speech, he said, I am the face of the Democratic Party now. He pulled a Joe Biden, like, I am the Democratic Party. And so I think because these statistics, whether or not they are true or fabricated or whatnot, but there's increased crime across the entire country. And I think the Republicans have made it clear that in the midterms, that is going to be their stance, is safety and police and
the law and order party, baby. They've been saying that since 1970. Thank you, Richard Nixon.
And like, I can somewhat agree with the fact that, like, you know, leftists love to make, like, you know, incendiary ideas like defund the police that immediately gets twisted and turned into, but that's not a pragmatic slogan, you know? It's not
I think there's a weird, like, I think it's funny how Republican voters vote in the way of like going to the extreme right and like really trying to like run away from what the other party is doing, but people on the left don't do that. Instead, they run to like they conflate the two as if like Trump and Sanders are the same, have the same ideological backgrounds, and they don't.
Right.
I mean, to call one extreme, I think is appropriate. To call one like globally centered is appropriate. Like,
right.
It's strange to say Sanders he's not extreme in terms of actual politics with our, and like if you position the United States in the international realm, the extreme one is Trump. That is an extreme. Like he has extreme positions that most international partners don't have. So I mean, call it for what it is.
In the eye of the moderate liberal, they don't think that defund, especially now that Eric Adams just won this race, they don't think that defund the police is going to win them the midterms. Mm-hmm. And that's the unfortunate outcome of this, is that people are going to be looking to this win to see what's going to work elsewhere, which actually doesn't really make any sense because New York City is its own progressive city that has
it's a deeply blue
issues.
City, yeah.
And I think people like to sort of monolithize, like, if it worked in this city, then it's going to work in, you know, LA and Seattle and everywhere.
Well, this is the year of the moderate Democrats. that's where we're in, man. With Biden and Eric Adams, this is where it's at.
But Biden has proven that he's more flexible than we thought.
This is true, and to not dissolve the actual historical notion of Eric Adams being the second black person to run this city ever. In terms of, I mean, knowing the historical backgrounds of New York City, where black folks were literally lynched in Manhattan, it is very important, like his position. But I don't know. Maybe we'll see. Maybe being in that. I mean, the only thing is though, like the misfortunes we have to Bill de Blasio is that he was so cozy up to NYPD, and we thought he might change, but I guess with Eric Adams, we know he's not going to change.
Right.
RoboCops. I mean, the fucking Robo-Dogs on the subway.
Okay.
Robo-Dogs are going to be taking subway tickets. Robo-Dogs are going to be giving out hot dogs at Yankees games. Robo-Dogs are going to So, all hail
the Robo Dog Army.
Robo Doggo. Doggo Robo. It's this grand irony that we had 100 days of protest, and here we are. These are the people who didn't show up to the protest. I'll say it. Or the people who were at the protest who said, don't destroy my neighborhood.
Yeah, right.
Which was like, ain't no one destroying your neighborhood, man. So,
like I said before, you know,
yes.
If you want to prove that you can fix policing in this country without defunding it or abolishing it as the intentionally racist organization that it is, here's your chance. You get, what is it, a 2-year term? Or 4-year
I thought
term?
it was 5 years.
You have a number of
Maybe.
years to prove yourself. And then we're going to try something else.
I guess my last thing on it is that for those who read the Obama one of the books, The Promised Land, I think, I can't remember, he did say in his book, and he said in multiple interviews, that defund the police will not win. Like, that slogan will not win for progressives. And weirdly enough, he was right.
I think it's a hard-learned lesson that leftists just have to keep learning. And I don't know, it's frustrating, but strategy and branding matter.
I think, but as you said earlier, I do think it's because it's been commandeered so heavily by the right, and we just can't forego the fact that, like, the right can make words become so taboo. Not the right, sorry, let me not conflate. Fox News and, like, the right media machine specifically, like, to call something cancel culture, which to me is just a right talking point at this point, or whatever it is it just arises all of a sudden, this emotion. Well, and they're good at that.
Like, we've talked a lot about critical race theory, which is like very like this esoteric, academic, scholarly like thing that happened at Harvard, and yet they'll still use the same term and turn it into like a boogeyman.
Now it's a right talking point, and just even to hear it is like, oh, I know where this person's going with this. So it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
Moving right along. So the Olympics, the Winter Olympics are coming up.
Winter? Summer?
Is it the
Tokyo 2020?
I'm talking about the Chinese Winter Olympics that are happening in 2022.
Whoa. I'm out of sync.
You're right, though. Tokyo 2020 is happening
right now.
In 2021.
Yeah, right now.
So they're not coming up.
No. They're
happening. Are people watching that? I haven't heard a single person discuss Tokyo 2020.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a Wheaties commercial. I haven't seen anything about this.
Or any like.
Are we just not sporty enough?
No. You know,
I usually catch some of it.
I think we should just go to Tokyo. We need to make sure it's happening. I don't know if it's happening, actually.
Somebody call Tokyo. Send us an email on Gmail. Let us know if the Olympics happened or not.
Tokyo@hotmail.net, please.
But anyways, the Winter Olympics is happening in China. And apparently the Labour Party in Britain, they are going to boycott as far as not allowing any of the government officials or the royals, or they're encouraging the royals to not attend, as well as a bargaining chip so that the UN can go in and do a thorough probe into the treatment of the Uyghur populations that are incarcerated in Xinjiang. And I think this is interesting for a couple things. One, does China care whether the royals show up to the Olympics at all? Because they're not threatening to pull out the athletes, because that would be unfair to the people who trained and unfair to the Chinese people who, aren't necessarily responsible for that. But at the same time, aren't there better ways to get China to listen to us, like maybe pulling supply chains out and refusing imports and hurting them in a way that might actually require us to take some sort of sacrifice, or Britain or whoever wants to take a stand? It just seems like such a weak move to be like, we're not going to come to your Olympics, and maybe then you'll let us see that you're committing genocide.
So the People's Communist Party of China are celebrating their 100th year of existence, also of being in power. And I think scholarly, it's always discussed that the biggest thing that they care about is their reputation globally, which is why they haven't let people in. But of course, we know that's not the case. I mean, the Hong Kong protest, Stand with Hong Kong, of course, proved that they don't really care what the international community thinks about what's going on, because if anything, they have utilized this, like, culturally, it is our thing to handle. Now, of course, if it was like ran by a very petty person, which it's not, it's ran by a very calculated person, it would be like, yes, come see the people that make your stuff from Amazon, and come see the people at the bottom of the supply chain, which, I mean, would reveal the bloody truth of, I think, like you said, like if they actually wanted to care about it, the Olympics is so far off, that's nothing. I mean, there will be thousands, if not millions, of Uyghur people who would die up until then. So, I mean, thank you, but no thank you, because that's not actually helping the people in need. And it's unfortunate. It's just the same, like Pringles or Nike releasing a statement about the death of George Floyd. It's just symbolic, and I can understand that there's only but so much they can do. I mean, really convincing hardcore like to refashion an economical chain is not an easy lift, but
the ball is in the court of the UN to do something about this, because we know that our government is not going to sacrifice any of its economic relations with China, especially when we are already kind of supporting genocide through Israel and Saudi Arabia. You know what I mean? Like, we are funding that, and we're not taking a stand there where we have much less to lose. And in China, it seems like they're going to be even less likely to do anything about that. So I guess props to the British government for being the one person at the UN to bring up, I guess, a proposal of like, important. This is something that we're willing to do to maybe get them to bring something to the table. But
which to that point, like, is there an actual corralling of like shunning, or like is there a coalition of nations going against China? I mean, that would be different. I mean, that's pretty major, right? But for just for the non-EU'd Great Britain to do it is it doesn't have as much weight.
Yeah, it's true. It doesn't feel like it has very much weight.
Brexit done Brexit you from having a greater
and we already talked about how like the royal family's losing more and more clout every year.
Yeah, so it's like,
I mean, Prince Philip, their darling, died, and now there's no more clout. Sorry, with all due respect to him and whatever he did in his life.
Anyway,
but it's a tricky situation. I want to believe that our administration is slowly trying to pull our supply chain out of China and not be so dependent on them for so many of their exports. But I think that's going to take decades.
That would take a long,
and like you said, like people are dying, people are being tortured, they're being sterilized, and the horrible atrocities, like some of the worst human rights violations in the whole world right now. And so it's important.
Stand with Hong Kong, stand with the Uyghur population, stand with Taiwan. and the Tibetans as well. I am not a Chinese person. I'm not Chinese born, but I think it does baffle me to just witness a nation that's just like not willing to let minority populations exist in their own way. I mean, but of course, Chinese communism is very, very different than American communism would ever be. I mean, it is a collectivist society that is focused on complete and total and utter power invested in one party. And to the fault of such, it stamps out individualism. I mean, I'm not the biggest go rugged individualism, hyper stratified American, we are one person thing, but this is the other extreme, unfortunately, and this is how it manifests itself in government specifically, whereas ours is how rugged individualism manifests itself in government. So I'm not speaking about the Chinese people, just the government.
Of course. Well, speaking of the Olympics, there is a new story that's a little more domestic, which is that track runner Sha'Carri Richardson has smoked the reefer.
Yep, the weed. Even though weed's legal in I don't even know how many states at this point. I can't even
half
keep
the states.
up. Half the states.
Everyone's high. And guess what? Not a single one of them can run faster afterwards. Not a single person.
It's impressive to run high.
I smoked so much weed and I've never ran a single time.
Yeah, that is big ups to that. It is. I mean, it goes without saying. We don't even have to go into it, but let athletes decide what you can and can't consume. And also weed is not in any way a what is it? Enhancement.
Performance enhancing drug.
Performance enhancement. In no shape or form for running.
Yeah. But it's I've still heard people calling it a doping scandal. No one calls it dope anymore. It's not
a doping scandal.
It's not doping.
A doping. No.
It might be dabbing, but no. I'm just kidding. And I don't know. It seems like she was very forthright about it and was yeah, I'm human. I made a mistake. She said she smoked after finding out about the death of her biological mother, and it just doesn't make any sense. And also, don't we all remember Michael Phelps getting caught with the bong in hand at a party, and they didn't take a single medal. They didn't prevent him from.
Well, of course, there is a double standard placed on black women.
Exactly.
So, I'm glad you bring that up. It doesn't. I mean, and this is not the only thing. There's been an onslaught of other news stories coming out that are specifically targeting black women from properly participating in the Olympics. I mean, who is on the Olympics committee? It's just it's so strange for an international committee to be so Eurocentric. It's so strange. It's so weird.
Also, Sha'Carri, you should still answer for your homophobic tweets. I still support you. I want you to run. I think you should be able to run, but you should also address that maybe because you'd have even more people on your side, perhaps.
Yeah, don't come for little Nas X. He don't care about you. He is not thinking about you. He sleeps well at night.
Well, I guess it's time. It's that time of the night where we wrap up. I feel I don't know why this is feeling like a Mr. Rogers ending, where we're
oh, it kind of is.
Well, it's been nice talking to you.
Thanks for tuning in. This has been the Avant Inn. I am one of your hosts, Jerome Allen.
And I'm another host, Topher Wagner.
If you like what you heard, leave a review on Apple Music. If you like what you saw, like and subscribe on the YouTube. That song is Knox Engler's Mend. Look out for his new album coming out soon. And Topher, what do you got for the folks out there?
It isn't over until the Robo-Dog howls.